This is Glen Coe. Stretching from Rannochmoor to Loch Leven, Glen Coe is one of the finest mountain climbing areas in Scotland. With Bocalet Moor, the Anach Eicach and the Three Sisters, the opportunities for walking, scrambling and rock climbing are endless. This film is about some of the classic scrambling routes. All of the scrambles featured can be used as more interesting alternatives to the summit of Munros. The Curved Ridge is a route to the summit of Stob Gerach of Bocalet Moor. The Sron na Lairig leads up to Stob Corrie Scrivach on Bidgin nan Bian, and the Anach Eicach links Sgwr nan Fianna to Meal Gerach. So what is scrambling? This is not scrambling. Nor is this. But this is. Scrambling is climbing where hands are used, but ropes and other rock climbing gear are not. Now, because of the range of abilities, what may be an easy scramble to one person could be an impossible rock climb to another. Also, the factors which contribute to the difficulty of a route, such as gradient, exposure, escapability, size and quality of holds, will affect different people differently. So grading a scramble can only give a rough guide. The scrambles in this film should be possible for any reasonably fit person who is capable of climbing a Munro, though some head for heights is required, as all of the routes will expose the climber to very steep drops. Bear in mind that climbing up is easier than climbing down, so to avoid becoming trapped, only climb up something which you could climb back down. Wherever possible, all your weight should be on your feet, with hands being used for balance and as a backup in case a foot should slip. Winter boots with their stiffer soles can give more reliable contact on smaller holds where only the edge of the boot can be placed on a hold. If the climb is so difficult that your arms are often bearing weight, then you are really rock climbing without ropes. Walking poles are useful for approach and descent, but should be packed away when the serious scrambling begins, since they can quickly become a liability. The grading system used here has 5 grades. As a rough guide, Grade 1 is where hands are used occasionally for balance only. Many Munros will have Grade 1 scrambling on their ascent. Grade 2 is Sustained Grade 1, where there may be exposure, or where hands are used occasionally for more than just balance. Sron na Lairig is an example of this. Grade 3 is Sustained Grade 2, where there may be inescapable sections. Examples of this are the Anach Eicach and Curved Ridge. Grade 4 is Sustained Grade 3, where factors may occasionally combine to give exposed, inescapable and technical climbing. The Barn Wall route is an example of this. Grade 5 is Sustained, Exposed, Inescapable and Technical climbing. Tower Ridge on Ben Nevis is an example of a Grade 5 scramble. If a given route is close to your limit, ropes and harnesses should be taken, but only if the whole party understands the proper use and technique. Without this, the equipment will become worse than useless, giving a false sense of security, or, even worse, lead to the scenario where one person's slip will cause the whole party to fall. The grades given to routes apply only in dry conditions. Any given route can become 2 grades harder when wet. The rocks in Glen Coe are particularly slippy when wet, but these routes are best left for dry sunny days anyway. Some of the hazards of scrambling are obvious, and some are not. Scrambling is often more dangerous than rock climbing because there is no safety equipment to limit a fall. All the hazards of walking in the Scottish hills still apply, such as cold, sunburn, gale force winds, swift changes of weather, navigation, and, of course, midges. Apart from the possibility of causing distraction at the wrong moment, a prolonged midge attack will ruin your day. For everything you could ever want to know about midges, there's a small but comprehensive book by George Henry, published by the Mercat Press. There are several remedies to the midge problem. Some are more effective than others, but they also seem to vary from person to person, so a little experimentation may be needed to find the ideal personal solution. Midges are worst in late summer, in low light, and in still air, so avoiding these conditions is one solution. Unfortunately, this is a fairly good match for the ideal scrambling conditions too. Midges cannot penetrate most clothing, so long sleeves and trousers with tight cuffs and collars will certainly help. Midge masks are available too, to stop them getting into your hair. Various creams and lotions are also available. The most effective of these are based on the chemicals DEET and DMP, or on plants such as bog myrtle and eucalyptus. However, some of these chemicals attack synthetic materials, and when the bottle warns against contact with eyes, take that warning seriously. In the following films, route overlays and insets are used to give additional information and context. For route overlays, orange is used to denote walking and red denotes scrambling. A dotted line indicates that the route is hidden by something in the foreground. The insets often come in pairs. The first inset shows the area of the mountain covered by the second inset. The second inset shows the position in more detail. While the routes are as accurate as possible, some routes, especially the curved ridge, allow many variations. Sometimes a natural line, such as the crest of a ridge, is followed, whereas at other times the path of least resistance is followed. Some of the thrill of these routes is in discovering the route, so take the route overlays as guidelines only. Take care and have fun. Sron the Lairig is a hidden gem. Lying behind the leftmost of the Three Sisters, and almost invisible from the road, the Sron attracts very few visitors compared with the rest of Glen Coe. Approaching up the empty glen with only deer for company, you can't help but smile to yourself that just by walking round the other side of Benata, you have the wilderness to yourself. The approach is surprisingly easy too. A 4-kilometre walk on a reasonable path up a gradual incline will take you almost to the base of the scramble. The Sron the Lairig overall is shorter and easier than either the Unachekech or the curved ridge, and although the upper section is inescapable, almost all the difficulties can be bypassed if desired. The route naturally divides into 4 sections divided by easy angled grass. The lowest section is a large slab with mixed outcrops of rock. The second section is the side ridge of a natural amphitheatre. The third section is a tiered crag topped by a prominent protruding block, and the fourth section is an exposed arête as the ridge narrows to the summit. It also gives a more interesting approach than the Lost Valley to the summit of Stubcorrie Scrivach, and makes a fine round trip when combined with the ridge walk of Benata, commonly pronounced Benfada. The first section of the Sron Lairig is dominated by a large slab seen clearly on approach. There's no obvious path of least resistance over the slab, and the holes are a little sparse in places, so it's well worth taking the time to spy a line before launching on up there. The slab can be avoided round to the right, where a broken line of easier angled rocks can be strung together for an alternative scramble. This route climbs to the base of a steep grassy gully, where the main route can be joined on the left at the top of the slab. Rather than rejoin the main route on the left, an easier choice is to walk up the gully, but I can't recommend this. The grass is long enough to hide any footholds, and somewhere in there's a stream, so it's very slimy. Any slip would quickly eject you from the route, drenched, with no dignity, and far too much momentum. On the right hand side of the gully, it looks like there may be some way through, but the rocks soon become a little too steep. Regardless of route choice, the first section ends on a grassy patch at the top of the gully, facing a cliff split by a dark chimney at the centre. If the cliff was any wider, this route would be a rock climb, but as it happens, the cliff can be bypassed on either side. On the right there's a ramp, like the first slab in miniature, which allows a way around the side of the cliff. The shortest way is to take the corner line, though this is trickier than it looks because it's smooth and damp. The slab itself is almost devoid of holes, so perhaps the best line is to start from the very base of the rocks and climb the crest. Mind you, even this has a couple of moves where hands are needed for more than just balance. Again, if neither of these routes appeal, easier ways lie to the right. From below, I could see that although the slab here lies at an easy angle, it's almost blank of holes. I thought that the combination of the corner crack and a line running about a metre to the right would yield enough holes to allow me up. I soon realised that the corner is loose and wet, so any holes there would be slippy or loose. I also realised that the outer edge of the flake did not have a crack running behind it as I'd hoped. By the time I broke out right for the crest, I was relying on the edging of my winter boots to stay on very small footholds. Altogether, this line is a lot harder than it looks.
was pretty desperate.
Once past the natural amphitheatre, there's another grassy platform with a buttress wall of the third section rearing up ahead. This doesn't look nearly so intimidating as the previous section, and indeed there's a zigzag line running up through this crag to the crest of the ridge above. Towards the top of this crag the path becomes a little exposed, but it's no more than a taste of the exposure to come. There's a prominent, protruding block at the top of this crag which serves as a good landmark.